Hello, welcome to Pilot Corner. My name is Kyle Garcia. I'm the sports editor.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm a sports reporter.
I'm Anna. I'm a senior sports reporter.
I'm Jameson, also a sports reporter.
All right, and we're here. Conference play is about to start for volleyball. The fall sports season is getting, it's pretty underway right now, about a month in, and so we figured it'd be good to convene and kind of talk about what's happening with UP sports. So we're going to start with Anna, who has an update on women's soccer for us. So Anna, what's going on with the women's soccer team?
Yeah, so right now, this is the second year under Coach French. It's looking pretty good. They have an overall record of 4-2-2, which is about the same place they were last year around this time of the season. This year, they're picked to finish 4th, which is the highest they've been picked for the last years. Last year, they were picked to finish 7th. Looks like things are going uphill. They have some pretty strong returners. Obviously, Taryn Rees, she had 15 total goals last year, which is more than they scored in their total 2017 season. So she's doing well and she's leading the charge. And then Kimberly Haslett from last year. Last year she was striker, and this year she's been moved back to defense, which was an interesting move. But when they lost a lot of defenders last year, French was looking to really reconstruct the defensive line, and she's been adding what she calls more feistiness. So I guess you're getting it from Haslett. This year they added Jenny Whalen from Sweden. She's been doing amazing. This past weekend she shut out Berkeley, and the team was able to win 2-0, which is probably one of their most impressive wins this season so far. And then they start conference play on Saturday against Pepperdine.
All right, and you mentioned that they were supposed to finish 4th in conference play according to the preseason poll. Has French done anything in particular, specifically, that's kind of, reinvigorated them or helped them get better? Or is it just, kind of just nice having a new coach with women's national team experience and all of that stuff? What do you think has kind of reinvigorated them?
I think in general, she's just added this fresh perspective. If you talk to the players, all of them will say that she just brings this positive attitude that I guess was kind of lacking before. So they all go into practice, wanting to get better and wanting to listen to her ideas, and she's just brought this new energy into the team.
All right, awesome. Thank you for that little update right there, Anna. Jameson, let's keep with soccer. Give us the men's soccer update.
Yeah, so men's soccer, they're notching at a record of 4-2-1 right now. They stumbled out of the gate, to be honest with you. They were ranked high to start the season. They were picked to finish second in the league, but they stumbled out of the gate, tying Colgate in the first game and dropping one to Coastal Carolina. But they finally have hit their stride now. They went on the road to Wisconsin and won a really big game out there in Madison, and then came back and won against number 23 ranked CSUN. They really found their stride because they've kind of turned to their depth. 9 different pilots have goals. Their lead scorer, Alejandro Pereira, is a sophomore, and has 3 goals. So really, they've spread out the goal scoring, and that's kind of what they had to do to replace Benjamin Michelle, who was obviously a goal scorer for them for 3 straight years. They've really turned their depth also in the fact that Ray Ortiz isn't even starting. I mean, he comes in as a Matt Herman Award watchee at the start of the year. He's a Player of the Year nominee, but he doesn't produce through the year, and Coach Nick Cullen-Boyd kind of sends him to the bench and says, hey, we're going to bring you out in a different role. He's kind of been bringing him in around the 15th, 20th minute, and he's come in and made a really big impact in that new role, and everybody's kind of bought in, and so they've kind of hit their stride.
It's definitely interesting because Ray's definitely someone who's finished in the top, he's one of the top WCC players for sure.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, last year he's dealing with injuries the entire year, but he still manages to get second all conference.
He's been an assist leader in the nation the last 2 years, and now he's coming off the bench. He's kind of having to find a new role, but he's really embracing it, and I think everybody's kind of finding their spot.
You mentioned that the depth's pretty important. Obviously, when you're stumbling out the gate, it's tough, especially when there's such high expectations.
Yeah.
Who do you think has stood out more than anyone so far on the men's soccer team?
Oh, God, that's tough. I mean, Alejandro Pereira, obviously, with 3 goals, is huge as a sophomore. Freshman Delence Pierre is getting a lot more playing time. He scored his first goal against number 23 CSUN last weekend. So that was that's big for young players to be kind of stepping up and making a difference. But it's really been a team effort. You've seen them use 2 different goalies in Josh Laguda and Campuzano. And they've both played well this year, so it's really been a team effort.
All right, thanks for that update. All right, we're gonna move on to Morgan's volleyball update here.
So volleyball is going into their second season under Coach Baxter as head coach and coming off of their most historic season yet. And this year they're not focusing on that. I talked to Baxter earlier in the preseason, and they're focusing on improving, not just reaching the expectations that they set for themselves last season. And there were some pretty big gaps to fill with graduating seniors and girls who transferred out. And he says that a lot of the new girls are fitting in nicely. Freshman Grace Silbert has stepped into a really big role as one of their defenders, and she even got honors at one of the tournaments last weekend and in New Mexico. And a lot of their new offense players are still adjusting to life on the bluff and to being in a big role for Portland, but he said they're fitting in nicely. A lot of the old players too have been really influential, like Shayla Heft. She's a senior middle blocker. She was MVP in the New Mexico State tournament, and she got all tournament honors at the Portland tournament earlier this month. She has been super strong for them defensively with her block and offensively with her swing, especially with her slide hit. And they're super excited to use her a lot this season. She's a really strong part of their offense. And then another returner, Carrie Williams, has been central to their servicey defense in the back row, and she's been such a big leader for them, home and away. And she's a nice carryover from last year, Carrie.
That's the good content you get here at the Beacon. Check us out, upbeacon.com. Keep going.
And a lot of players from last year have stepped up into new roles, such as Kelly Hughes, the junior setter. She didn't see a lot of playing time last year, and when she did, she was as a server. And this year, she's going all around as a setter, front row and back row. She's a little bit of an undersized setter. She's 5'7", 5'8", and that's kind of difficult when you're going up against really tall hitters. So her block has been a shortcoming for the Pilots, but she even said herself that the defense has been making up for that with their aggressive back row and working around her short block. And Liz Reich also, last year she played, but now she's stepping into a bigger role as an outside hitter to get her more swings, because she's super athletic, super powerful swing, really eager to get out there, and her versatility has helped the team. And right now they're 8-3. They're only 3 losses. We're to some pretty good teams, and they're gonna have to carry on their momentum from the preseason to these next few games that they have, because USD received votes earlier nationally, and they're set to finish second in the WCC, and they play BYU Saturday, which is arguably their biggest match because they're ranked number 9 in the country and went to the Final Four last year. So that'll be an exciting game to catch.
Definitely a tough slate to start the conference play. There's a lot of turnover, I know, with the roster from this year, or from last year into this year. Callie Thompson's gone, Reagan Pukas is gone, a couple other players. How do you think they kind of adjusted to losing all those kind of key players? Do you think they've been adjusting okay? Obviously the record isn't quite as good as a historic 12-0 start, but that's pretty tough to replicate most of the time anyway. But
yeah, for sure. I think that the new players have fit in nicely, like a sophomore transfer, Claire Forrest, is fitting in nicely on the right side offensively and with her block. And then Jade Harris saw some time against Portland State the other day with her swings, and she stepped up in a major way. I think the new players are fitting in nicely, and some of the old players are readjusting their roles to step up for the team.
I know they have a history of struggling in a really tough WCC, so we'll see how that all translates into conference play over the next few months. All right, now let's talk a little bit about cross country. That's my beat. So both teams are kind of in a similar situation where they're not necessarily rebuilding, but they're reloading. That was the phrase I used in the men's cross country preview. So the men's team, let's just start with them. Obviously, they've had a great past couple of years, top 2 finishes in both years, second in 2017. They lost 5 of their top 7 runners from this past year, but they kept their top runner in Emmanuel Rudolph Livesey, and they also kept their sixth runner in Caleb Webb. And they also have their alternate from Nationals in Riley Olsen. So they still have a lot of really good runners. And UP's nationally, they're still a really good team. They're still ranked 6th. They came to the season ranked 6th. They've kind of maintained that to start the season. They're still really good, but it's just a matter of like they're not quite as good as they used to. They used to be. Last time they were kind of in a similar position. Last time they were in this kind of position, I talked to Rob Connor about this. He mentioned that there was a year where they made 3rd, I believe it was in 2014, they made 3rd nationally, but then they lost 5 of their top 7 runners and then they didn't make nationals at all. I asked him how that situation kind of compared to this situation, and he was like, our runners, we just have so much more depth now that we're not even worried about that, and we think we're still a really good team and we can compete for nationals and really push teams. They haven't really run no offense to the races they've run already, but they haven't really run like a really like competitive race yet. A lot of these early races not until like early October, late September, the Dellinger Invite's going to be their first like real race. It's a lot of warm-up stuff, a lot of getting races for people who aren't going to race a lot throughout the year. So that will be kind of the first like litmus test of like how good they actually are, how they compare to like big schools like U of O, who are also going to be running a lot of their good runners. And so yeah, we'll kind of have to wait and see with that. With women's cross country, it's kind of a similar situation where they lost their 2 best runners, arguably ever, in Lauren LaRocco and Taryn Rawlings. Obviously, Lauren LaRocco, we wrote a story about this earlier, about how she was nominated for NCAA Woman of the Year. Super good runner. And then Taryn Rawlings was also a really good runner, had the great race in nationals where she worked her way up from 51st all the way to 26th place, all in the final like 2,000 meters of the race. So it was pretty impressive, and they lose both of those runners, which kind of stinks for them. But they're still pretty good. Preseason has them picked to finish 2nd, same as the men's team. I forgot to mention that for the men's team. They're supposed to finish 2nd behind BYU, who just is absurdly good. So there's nothing to do about that. But the women's team looks really good too. They have a lot of runners they're really excited about. Varag Wheeler is a runner from Hungary that coaching in Solov is really excited about. She's really solid runner, Solov said. He said that she's never going to amaze you with a race, but she's never going to do really bad. She's always going to be really consistent. And that's kind of nice, and that's something you want in your top 7, just someone who can consistently kind of perform well. And then she brought her friend over, Anna Bataki from Hungary, who just transferred over here. She's a redshirt sophomore, and he expects her to be in that top 7 as well. And then they return a few other runners that they're really excited about. Stella Gilman is one of those runners that was, according to Coach Solov, in the best shape of her life and the best shape out of all the athletes, but unfortunately she hurt her foot. The story I heard was that she ran into a stump while they were running in the tree. It sounded very painful. And hopefully she'll recover soon and be able to race at some of the bigger races like the Nutty Cone Invite at Wisconsin, where the top 31 teams usually go to race. So hopefully she will come back. And then Jasmine Fair is another runner who Coach Solov pointed to as someone to keep an eye on this year. So yeah, both teams are kind of looking up still despite losing a lot of their top people. So yeah, all right. And so I think that concludes the Pilot Corner. Thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to stay tuned to the Beacon for all your pilot news and updates.